What is up, guys? How's it going? My name is Aram Joseph. In today's video, we are going to go ahead and take apart some of the desktop computers that I have coming into the recycling center. What specifically we're going to be doing is salvaging the motherboard and maybe some other pieces like the power supply. It's only going to be done for the sole example of showing you guys that even an old computer can have value. So at the end, I'm going to show you guys how much the board is worth, how much it would be worth if it was sold per pound compared to per piece. So let's get to it. We have a graphics card, Ethernet adapter, water cooled, for the CPU direct, no hard drive, CD drive, and power supply. So I'm gonna go ahead and take everything apart, disconnect all the wires. That way it's easier when I pull out the board. And what I'm gonna do at the end, later on, is I'm gonna take it apart, assemble it back on my external test bench so that I can test out the board with my own power supply. I don't wanna rely on their power supply. There's a reason why it's here at the recycling center. This may have failed. I want to make sure when I test things, it is in a controlled environment with parts that I know are working. That way, if there is a problem, I can kind of hone in on it, when I know certain parts are already working. There's an old one too, Wi-Fi. All right, let's put this on the side. Okay, let's take out the graphics card. So when I pulled out this graphics card, I saw that the label is brown. So that may be one of two things. It may be if it overheated, but then the other labels would also be dark. This may be because something was like some sort of liquid was dropped onto it. Now I'm looking at it closely. There's even right here at this corner, there's maybe a little bit of corrosion or requires further investigation to make sure it does work. So, okay, let me take out the 8-pin power. Can manage this tight spot. Wow. There you go. The water cool. Oh my God, my power tool is going out. Look at that. It doesn't want to do it anymore. Okay. Plenty of corrosion. There's more corrosion than I've seen. But then again, this is copper, so it is more prone to corroding this color. Nonetheless, regardless of the level of corrosion, this does show that there was liquid that touched the board. Maybe it was facing, like it was sitting on its back where the board was facing up, and maybe it was like sitting outside or whatever, that water got in. It's not a good sign, but it does seem like it's dry. So if there was no electricity running through it, then we may be lucky. I may be able to clean it out. It's pretty cool the way they did it, with it being see-through instead of like a closed shell, but I don't see any brand. Okay, so now that we've taken out the CPU cooler and the radiator from the back, we're gonna go ahead and take apart the motherboard, disconnect it from the case, and then after that, take out the power supply. So we will get the measurements, like the weight for the case on its own, the power supply, the motherboard, and the graphics card. We get that sum, and I'll show you how much that were to sell for per pound. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and put the motherboard on my test bench, and we'll see if we can get it to work or if we have to, play with it a little bit. I don't know if you guys can tell, but there is corrosion I just saw right now on the top of the CPU bracket. It's green. So I'm hoping that, whatever liquid it was didn't get inside the CPU socket, because then it would be painstakingly difficult and time consuming to even try to clean under there. I don't even think I'll be able to. Maybe let it sit in high solution alcohol, because there are so many pins, maybe 200 pins under there, and you can't put a brush or anything. You'll ruin all the pins. So you would deem the board completely useless. Yeah, you can even see here. See whatever it was mixed with the dust. You take out the I/O. Yeah, look at that. Even there, you see all the dried liquid. Looks like water. It's like all this calcified residue that's left. Let's take out the power supply. I think I have to grab a wire cutter because they're zip tied. They're zip tied to the case here, here, here. Let me grab a wire cutter. So there is power supply. Now that everything's taken apart, we have the board, the graphics card, Wi-Fi adapter, power supply, and the CPU cooler with the radiator. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up before I actually go ahead and test it so I can see the damage, how far it is. So now that everything's cleaned up, I'm gonna go ahead and mount the motherboard onto the external test bench I've made. All right, let's pop this in its spot. This is a 850 watt, so it's sufficient without a graphics card. It didn't come with RAM, so there you go. Okay. If I remember correctly, it should be the white slots should be the ones. I'm not going to turn it on for long. It's gonna be just 10-15 seconds, so I don't have to put a cooler on. So I guess we do have to test it with the graphics card because we don't have a video output. Let's do that. Connect my little power button. Okay, that does it sometimes. And now I should turn back on. All right. Now what we're facing, as you can see, is it turns on and turns off, right? So this may be the graphics card, it may be the RAM that is in the wrong spot. I know the power supply works, and this is a perfect example of why I take it apart. If this were to have happened inside the case with their power supply, I would have thought, okay, maybe it's the motherboard because, you know, maybe the power supply is working as long as it turns on, and you just end up wasting more time until later on you find out it's possibly the power supply. So let's turn it off. Let's unplug the graphics card. We don't care if it posts anything on the screen. We just want to make sure it turns on and stays on. Okay, I'll let it do it second time and turn off. All right. Okay. It is a problem with the board. So now the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out, let me take out one RAM. Maybe the slot is bad. And just like this way of testing, on and off, you know, you have to go and then try to isolate the problem, and that's it, perfect. So it was not difference in RAM. Let me move it to the first spot. Since it's still doing that, I'm gonna change the type of RAM. This RAM, so this ends in an E. I'm gonna change it up with RAM that ends in a U. Let's see. So this is a U. All right, let's turn it back on. Turns on, turns off. Now it should turn on and stay, if that was the problem. Okay, turns on, turns off. Disconnect everything and let me take out the CPU and see what's going on. Although there's corrosion, you know, we can see from the green, before I take out the CPU and see what's going on underneath, I want to clear off some of this corrosion because I don't want any of it to, you know, fall into the socket. Then there's no hope. I've had so many customers, I mean, obviously this wasn't done for me, but I've had so many customers that before dropping off an item, they just tear it apart completely, like as if it's with the jaws of life, so that once they drop it off over here, nobody can retain any sort of value besides just selling it per pound. If you were to look at it from this angle, you can see all of the pins like this on the top side are all bent. They're all bent down. Yeah, I was trying to see if it was a liquid that just coated it, like the same way, see how this has two different colors, the bottom half, which is how it comes, and the top half is darker. So this is very good processor. It's an i7-2600K. So if I can't salvage the board, I'm hoping at least I could salvage the processor. If you look at it from this angle, I don't know if you're able to tell, there's like a bunch of little stuff inside the pins over here. Pins are bent, but they're all bent in the same direction. And I'm hoping that once I put the CPU back in, it'll all be the same because the contact points are still in the same direction on the top, if you can tell. Just for the hell of it, I'm gonna pop in another CPU and see if it works. So we'll be right back with that. I'm gonna grab a CPU that does fit into this socket, and then we'll see, hopefully we can salvage the board. If not, this is gonna be sold per pound. We can try to salvage the CMOS battery. That's pretty much it for this. I found another CPU. It's a i3. I know this works, although I've seen several bent pins inside. I just wanna definitively get a response, you know, better yet an answer to if this board is salvageable or not. And I kind of want you guys to see the process I go through to ultimately deem a board functional or not. Okay, so now that we know the board is not salvageable, I had tested out another CPU. It was a 3rd gen i5 in that server motherboard, and I saw it wasn't working again. I'm like, you know, this is a little bit weird. I swapped motherboards. I realized that one has like specific configuration, only works with certain type of CPUs. So I grabbed another motherboard. I put that 3rd gen i5 inside. It works. So now I just put in the original i7 2600K in this board. So I'm gonna turn it on now, first time. Let's see, hopefully it works. i7 2600K. Great news, we're able to salvage the GTX 650. That one tested and works. i7 2600K. We tested out the Wi-Fi adapter. That one works as well with the water cooler. This seems like it's an aftermarket piece. There is no branding on it. And with the corrosion on it, I don't think, I'll try to wipe it off, but you know, once a customer sees that, it's not gonna be anything of use. It's not gonna be appealing. It's not gonna, these things aren't expensive anyway. You could buy a new one for like $30. I will show you guys a side-by-side tally of the value of everything if I were to sell it per pound, and the value of everything that I was able to salvage. So of course, the board, as I showed you guys, this I could not salvage. So this, regardless, is gonna be sold per pound. I will show you, however, how much it sells if I sold it for parts on eBay. So it's probably gonna be like $15, $20, or $25. But yeah, this one for sure, I can't get it to work. What we came up with, the total weight, is 23.69 pounds. That is with the tower and everything complete. So the sum total of all the pieces individually, if I were to weigh them separately, the total value is $8.11. If I were to sell the tower as is, the total amount I would get paid out would be $5.92. We have $8.11, everything separately, but sold per pound still. And then we have $5.92 if everything is sold as a complete piece without me weighing it out separately. If I were to sell everything per piece, if this board was working, I would have a total sum of $160. Now, the board isn't working. I'm also not gonna sell the CPU cooler as well as the power supply. So with those taken into account, the total value I was able to retain for everything that was working was $75. So there you have it. We have $75 in value I found, right? And what I could do is I could also add the weight of the board. The weight of the board is 77 cents. I'll get paid for this. The CPU cooler and the power supply total would be 85 cents and 33 cents. So basically around $1.40, $1.50, give or take. So 75 plus $1.40, $1.50, that'll be the total value of everything I sold per pound, and then a little bit per weight. How I try to retain the most value of items that do come in. Of course, this was an i-series desktop, and this was an i7 specifically. If it was like a 2nd gen i3, it would have been $5 instead of, what is the value? $30 for i7 2600K. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I would appreciate it if you liked the video. Comment below what you would like me to take apart next, what you would like a breakdown like this, as far as value per piece and per pound, what I can retain. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm tired, I'm gonna go home. Subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. I'll see you guys on the next one.